To call the Five Nights at Freddy's timeline complex would be an offensive understatement. The lore and underlying story of FNaF is immense and runs incredibly deep, spanning more than 10 games and 15 books. There's so much to this story. The mysteries revolving around FNaF are perhaps its main selling point. The series has kept people coming back for almost 8 years now, encouraging its players to solve the secrets buried beneath the surface. The complexity and at some points nonsensical aspects of it have also spawned off endless memes poking fun at the ridiculousness of the whole thing.
Wow, that sex was poggers. But I need to get back to telling you about the Five Nights at Freddy's timeline.
For almost half of my existence, I have devoted myself to solving the mysteries of FNaF and piecing together this story. I'm barely exaggerating when I say that. But after years of banging my head against the wall, hours of gameplay, days spent researching and theorizing and poring over the most minute of details, I think I can finally present to you a fully assembled timeline for FNaF. At least until the next game comes out. The story I'm about to tell you is by no means perfect, and there are things that I didn't mention or thoroughly cover. That's not because I think they're unimportant, just that they don't fit clearly into my personal narrative. By no means am I saying this is fact or that I'm right at all. In fact, far from it, I don't think I'm even close to being right. But my timeline will hopefully make for a compelling story. Alright, before we hop in, let's establish a couple things. First of all, a linear timeline is kinda hard to create for FNaF since there's oftentimes several events happening at once. For example, sister locations can coexist. Secondly, most events in FNaF are relative and don't have specific dates. While we can make estimates using hints provided in-game like minimum wages, a lot of events are just placed based on where they occur in relation to the one before it. I will try to create a vague timeline at the bottom of the screen to follow along with. Thirdly, and a major warning for all FNaF fans on Reddit, my theory does incorporate elements of the novel trilogy. I know, capital sin. My interpretations of certain aspects of the story are fairly unique and not popularly believed in the community, which I know is a terrifying prospect. And yes, the things I pull evidence for from the books do have proof to corroborate them in game canon. Alright, got it? Got it. Let's go. Our story begins with a small restaurant known as Fredbear's Family Diner in New Harmony, Utah. This restaurant is started by two men, both with a passion for robotics, Henry Emily and William Afton. William has a wife, and with her he has 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. His first and eldest son is Michael. William outcasts his son Michael and accuses him of being an illegitimate child. This is shown in the Immortal and the Restless cartoon from Sister Location, wherein a purple-clad vampire insists to his wife that her child isn't his, despite the very visible similarities between the two of them.
Clara, I tell you, the baby isn't mine!
Count, I tell you that it is! You're the only vampire I've ever loved! And the baby turns his bottles into powdered milk!
That doesn't mean anything!
This parallels real events, where Michael is confused for his father on multiple occasions.
They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
William's second child is Elizabeth. While he doesn't seem to resent his daughter as much as Michael, he also doesn't treat her well, either. In the fourth closet, he treats her horribly, and he does a very poor job of keeping her away from Circus Baby later in the story. But he does say that Baby was a gift for his daughter, and he tries to protect her, albeit very poorly, for whatever that's worth.
Daddy, just once let me go play with her. She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me?
So while he's by no means an amazing parent, he does care about her at least a little bit. William's third and final child is unnamed, though some people speculate that it's Evan based on a Fazbear Fright story, so let's go with that because the crying child is kind of a mouthful. We don't really know too much about William's relationship with Evan for the time being, but we do see how he's treated later, which is rather cruel and manipulative. Henry, meanwhile, has just one child, a little girl named Charlotte, or Charlie for short. Fredbear's Family Diner houses just 3 animatronics: Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, and the Puppet. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are costumes that can be worn as regular suits by human performers, but can also be put on robot endoskeletons and used as animatronic shells. The Puppet, meanwhile, functions as a security system for the restaurant. It's designed to protect children with the designated color of security bracelet, and for a while, things are just fine. However, things take a turn for the worse when Charlie is found murdered. On a stormy day, Charlie, wearing a green security bracelet, is locked out of the diner. She begs to be let in, but is ignored by her peers and vanishes into the rain. The Puppet, who was directed to protect children wearing green bracelets, follows Charlie out into the rain. It finds her body in the alley behind the pizzeria and continues to crawl towards her despite the rain causing it to short-circuit. The Puppet finally succumbs to the rain and breaks down next to Charlie's body. Charlie's spirit possesses the Puppet, permanently tying her to the pizzeria. Now, who could be responsible for the death of an innocent young girl like this? You already know him, it's William Afton. After killing Charlie, William drives back home in his purple car because he likes to stay color coordinated. When he gets to his house, Michael tells William to leave the person in the room alone and that he had her up Jay, the one in the room being Evan. William yells at him to open the door and goes around to the back of the house. There, he sees the back window broken and claims that he ran off to that place again. How do we know this is Evan? Well, before witnessing some kind of incident, he did obviously like Freddy's, since he does refer to his plushies as his friends in FNaF 4, so if this is before said incident, that could likely be his favorite place. In addition, it's very unlikely that the person in the chair here is Evan, just based on his manner of speech and the way he's portrayed. What else is important to note is that in the same minigame this is portrayed, Midnight Motorist, you can go off the beaten path and find a mound of dirt. It's been unclear what this is supposed to represent, but I believe that it's a buried body. And whose body is buried here? None other than the elusive Mrs. Afton. Allow me to explain. Something that's always bothered me about William as a character is his seeming lack of a motive. There's no real explanation for why William does all these horrible things, but if Mrs. Afton died before the events of the series, then we do have a reason for William to kill Charlie. If he can't have the one dearest to him, then neither can Henry. But there's more to it than this. Like Henry in the books, William was so overcome with grief that he wanted to bring his loved one back in an artificial way. He created a robot replica of her that we know as Ballora. This also explains other aspects of Midnight Motorist. He's not allowed a junior since he was irresponsibly drinking his sorrow away, and it also explains why he treats his children like this. Henry, meanwhile, experiences something similar. Grief-stricken, he creates a robot version of his daughter as though she was still there with him. But his daughter couldn't stay a toddler forever, she had to grow up. So he creates 4 versions of her, each to represent a different stage of her life. A toddler, a child, a teenager, and a woman. Then she would be complete. But there was something special about his Charlie. He managed to get a part of himself, his emotions, into them. Now, we all know this happens in the novels, but can we say it also happened in the games? Well, I believe so. The insanity ending of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator has long perplexed me, and it's remained unclear what it means, but revisiting the 4th Closet and looking at Henry's story in that book may reveal what he's referring to here.
It's only now that I understand the depth of the depravity of this creature, this monster that I unwillingly helped to create.
It's Baby. He's talking about Circus Baby. Let me explain. Now, if you haven't read the 4th Closet or watched my review of it, this might not make sense to you, so let me explain. As I mentioned before, Henry created 4 robot recreations of his daughter Charlie. What I didn't say is that in the novel, the 4th body was actually Baby. While the monster he's referring to could be William or just the pizzeria itself, I think it is Baby for this reason in addition to some other evidence from the game itself. First of all, Baby is the only one who isn't referred to out of all the scraps in the Insanity ending. William's name is never said directly either, but Henry refers to a he a lot through it, and never a she. Saying that the monster is Baby also has a dramatic edge to it since he quite literally did create her. In addition, Henry also refers to Baby as Elizabeth in the true ending, which I find strange if he didn't have some kind of connection to Baby. I don't doubt he knew Elizabeth or her name, but to know that she was possessing Baby seems to hint at something further. Furthermore, Baby asks Michael if,
"You don't really know who your employer is, do you?"
Sister Location has a lot of references to kidnapping, and in the 4th Closet we learn that William kidnapped Baby from Henry. In FNaF World, the Desk Man, who is presumably a stand-in for Henry, says that he created Baby and she's too powerful to be stopped. It all ends up to me, Baby is Henry's creation. But I digress, let's get back to the actual story. After the tragic death of Charlie, Fredbear's family diner is permanently tied to the incident and Henry's forced to shut the restaurant down. He moves his family to Hurricane and William comes shortly after. Here they open 2 new Fazbear locations. The first is known as Fredbear and Friends and makes use of the animatronics Fredbear and Spring Bonnie on stage. These 2 are a special type of suit called the Springlock suit. These animatronics are equipped with springs that can pull the mechanical parts out of place and allow for them to be worn as costumes. However, the springlocks are very sensitive, and the slightest disturbance causes them to come loose, the robotics shooting back into place. As you can imagine, if someone is wearing this costume while the springlocks came loose, the consequences are horrifying. The second location is known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, with 4 new characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. This location keeps the original Fredbear and Spring Bonnie costumes in the back. These new characters are marketed with plushies and action figures. In addition, each location includes an additional room that doesn't appear on the digital layout of the pizzeria, called the Safe Room. This room is where the Springlock animatronics are stored and where employees are directed to go in the case of an emergency. It's also invisible to the animatronics, and if they attempt to enter it, a system error will occur. Around this time is also when one phone guy is hired at Freddy Fazbear's. Phone guy becomes a trainer for the restaurant's performers, recording training tapes instructing them on how to use the spring suits. But it isn't long before murder strikes again at Freddy's. 5 children are lured to the safe room by a man wearing a Spring Bonnie suit near the end of the night and are never seen again, presumed dead. These children include Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy. Charlie, the puppet, took the children's bodies and stuffed them into the animatronic suits, causing their spirits to become attached to the robots. Following this incident, the restaurant has a hard time maintaining a customer base and is often threatened with shutdown over the poor sanitation, most notably when bodily fluids were visibly leaking from the animatronic suits. Meanwhile, William constructs an underground storage facility and laboratory located beneath Fredbear's, which also happens to be right by his house. Here he begins work on his new, highly advanced series of animatronics, known as the Funtimes. These animatronics include Funtime Freddy, Funtime Chica, and Funtime Foxy. Funtime Chica is a spring suit designed to be more safe to climb in and out of by use of faceplates. In addition, 2 brand new characters are introduced, Circus Baby and Ballora. Ballora is William's attempt to recreate his wife in robot form. However, he was unsuccessful in implementing a part of himself into his creation, and it's likely because he did not have the same love in his heart that Henry did. So, in order to learn the secret of her existence, William stole Charlie's 4th body from Henry and hid her in his underground facility. Of course, that 4th body was none other than Baby. Following Charlie's 4th body being stolen, Henry withdraws from anything to do with Freddy Fazbear's entirely. After the murders at Freddy's, William begins to advertise his new restaurant, Circus Baby's Pizza World. This restaurant features the new Funtime animatronics, whose impressive technology amazes the public and gets them very excited for the location. In addition, these animatronics are equipped with a special device that emits an audio frequency that obfuscates the senses and causes the viewer to see them the way they perceive them, meaning to a child, this will look a little more like this. This allows the cost of the animatronics' aesthetics to be much simpler and creates more accessible maintenance functions, such as segmented limbs and faceplates that can be opened easily. This wouldn't ruin immersion since the children aren't seeing the animatronics as they truly are. However, these animatronics have a sinister secret. These characters are outfitted with mechanisms designed specifically to capture and kill children. Funtime Foxy and Ballora distract parents and isolate kids, with Foxy being equipped with modules allowing him to mimic voices and release scents, and Ballora having a module designed to deter and misdirect. Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy perform the actual execution, with Freddy's blueprints revealing a storage tank with the figure of a child inside. Baby's ice cream dispenser we hear described in the opening is in fact a trap. When a child is alone in the room with her, she reveals an ice cream cone to lure them in before a massive claw emerges, crushing them to death. And this is the very fate that will befall William Afton's young daughter. Despite being warned not to go near Circus Baby, when her father wasn't looking, Elizabeth took off to go see Baby. When she arrived there, the room emptied out and she was left alone with the animatronic. Baby presented Elizabeth with an ice cream cone, causing the girl to rush forward. However, the decoy worked exactly as intended, and Elizabeth was immediately crushed to death, leaving her spirit to haunt Circus Baby and causing her eyes to change color from blue to green, reflecting Elizabeth's bright green eyes. However, Elizabeth is certainly not the only victim of this establishment. A newspaper article claims that kids from around the area had come to visit Circus Babies prior to its grand opening. Now, why might this be the case if not to attract more victims? It's also possible that the Funtime Chica suit was used in this location to lure unsuspecting children to their deaths, given this line from Baby.
You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used. At least not the way it was meant to be used.
After learning of his daughter's death, William scrambles to call off the opening of Circus Baby's Pizza World, blaming it on gas leaks. William moves the Funtime animatronics into his underground facility, where they can be rented out for private parties. Meanwhile, things are getting worse in the Afton family. Resentful of his father's neglectful behavior, Michael begins to take out his anger on his younger brother. For the week leading up to his birthday, Evan is bullied by his older brother, who preys on his fear of the animatronics and tries to startle him by wearing his Foxy mask. Evan, deathly afraid of animatronics after possibly witnessing his sister be brutally killed by Circus Baby, is easily scared by his brother's cruelty. William, not wanting Evan to suffer the same fate as Elizabeth, makes extra sure that the boy will go nowhere near the animatronics. He plants his son's beloved Fredbear plush with a walkie-talkie and puts security cameras around the house to monitor his movements. Evan's fear of the robots is made worse by William, who encourages him to run away from the animatronics whenever he's in Fredbear's, even when it's just a performer in a costume. This way, Evan will do and think exactly what his father wants. After a week of torment, however, Michael's bullying goes a step too far, and him and his friends force the little boy into Fredbear's mouth. However, Evan's erratic movements and tears cause the spring locks to come loose, and the animatronic's massive jaw clamps down on the frail head, crushing it like a garbage compactor. Upon realizing that they had taken it too far, Michael and his friends stop laughing. Evan is rushed to the hospital immediately, but tragically passes away soon after. In his dying moments, he hears the voice of the puppet speaking to him, telling him, "I will put you back together." Evan's spirit then moves into the Fredbear animatronic, the one that killed him. Following this incident, both locations agreed that the spring suits are far too dangerous, and an announcement is made that they are not to be used by anyone.
Hello. There's been a slight change of company policy concerning use of the suit. Don't. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees. Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technicians. Until replacements arrive, you will be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness/relevance should be deflected. I repeat, the classic suits are not to be touched, activated, or worn. That being said, we are free of liability. Do as you wish.
We don't know much about the temp suits referred to here, though they may be the mediocre melodies. We know that some suits can be equipped on animatronics or worn as standard costumes, and seeing as this change was made as a direct result of Springlock failures, it's not likely that the temp suits were spring suits. So while not much is known about them, the mediocre melodies being used as mascot suits here could be a possibility. Fredbear and Friends is shut down, and the Springlock suits are abandoned in the location, Evan's spirit haunting the building all alone. Michael, ashamed of himself after the horrible accident he caused, abandons his father's house and moves into his own home separate from his father. I'm not too satisfied with this part of the theory since it's technically possible but not incredibly probable, but we do know that at some point Michael does move out, since in Sister Locations map we see these two homes designated as separate locations. Although I could absolutely see William kicking Michael out of the house as well. Meanwhile at Freddy Fazbear's, the restaurant is facing multiple health code violations due to the poor condition of the animatronics and the tragedy that occurred there. Eventually the restaurant is forced to close its doors. Fortunately for them, though, soon after this closure, the production line has finished work on its newest line of animatronics, the toys. While not as advanced as the Fun Times, these guys are still pretty impressive. The toys are equipped with advanced mobility, facial recognition, and safer, more child-friendly designs, with jaws that can't be detached. Most importantly, they're outfitted with a criminal database that can supposedly detect predators up to a mile away. This non-biased security system is a major selling point for the company after the incident that occurred there previously, and once the new location starring these characters opens, Fazbear Entertainment starts bringing in the numbers they need once again. This location features Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, the Puppet, and Balloon Boy as attractions. Foxy was deemed too scary and too dangerous for the children and was replaced with Toy Foxy, based on the Funtime Foxy character from the Circus Baby crew. The original animatronics, still haunted by the first 5 victims, are stored in the back for spare parts. The Spring Bonnie suit, tied to the prior kidnappings, is left behind or possibly destroyed to recycle parts. The Fredbear suit is kept since it never seemed to have any problems, a decision they would soon come to regret. Here, 2 guards are hired, an unknown night shift guard and a day shift guard. The day shift guard apparently worked the night at first, but he was moved to the daytime after complaining that the animatronics were trying to get into his office. At this point, we know that no deaths have occurred at this location, so why or how could this have happened? The only explanation is that the toy's criminal database began acting up, or a figure that would cause the spirits in the old suits and the puppet to become restless appeared. You probably know where this is going. The day shift guard is almost certainly none other than William Afton. And henceforth, it isn't long before murder strikes again at Freddy's. In the late hours of a Tuesday night at the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, William uses the Fredbear suit in the back room to lure 2 children to the safe room, killing them. Their spirits become attached to the Mangle and Balloon Boy animatronics. Since these two are already unusual, it makes sense that Fazbear's unattentive staff took no note of possible changes in behavior. On Wednesday night, Phone Guy reassures the night guard that any rumors he may have heard are not legitimate and should be ignored. He also adds that the day shift guard has reported nothing unusual, placing further suspicion onto that character.
Oh hey, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know. Our guard during the day has reported nothing unusual, and he's on watch from opening till close. Okay, well anyway, hang in there and I'll talk with you tomorrow.
What Phone Guy didn't know was that another 3 deaths had already occurred that evening. William lured another 3 children to the safe room, who were now haunting Toy Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. On Thursday night, Phone Guy informs us that apparently the rumors have grown into an investigation and that the animatronics are now acting strange around adults.
Okay, so just to update you, there's been somewhat of an investigation going on. We may end up having to close for a few days, I don't know. I want to emphasize, though, that it's really just a precaution. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing. These things happen sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days. Just keep an eye on things and I'll keep you posted. Just as a side note though, try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronics tonight if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems, we're not sure. But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive toward the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just stare.
By Friday, we learn this.
Oh, hey, good job, night 5. Hey, keep a close eye on things tonight, okay? From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. The position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down. So just get through one more night. Hang in there. Good night.
There's a lot of information to unpack here. First of all, Phone Guy specifically states that no previous employees are allowed in or out, and then adds that the day shift position became suddenly available. On top of this, he said that they're trying to find Henry, which seems strange, right? However, if we combine this with what we were told before about previous employees, we can surmise that they were trying to find Henry so they could learn more about the employee present for all deaths. In other words, William is starting to become a suspect and has likely already been fired. If this is the case, William is in big trouble. However, since Henry is entirely withdrawn from Freddy's at this point, or the owner is the killer himself, they can't find a good reason for William to be arrested, allowing him to narrowly avoid justice once again. By Saturday, the pizzeria has been temporarily shut down entirely so the toy animatronics can be repaired. After his brief stint working the night shift at Freddy's and seeing the ghost grow restless in response to his presence, William realizes that the spirit of his daughter could very well be residing in Circus Baby. He contacts his son Michael and instructs him to put her back together and go save Elizabeth. In all likelihood, he probably just wanted access to Baby so he could continue to research the secrets of her existence. Michael, seeking his father's approval and love, follows William's instructions and goes to Circus Baby's entertainment rental to find his sister. On his second night there, he meets Baby, who protects him from the Biddy Babs and tells him how to get through Ballora Gallery safely. Baby is an incredibly advanced robot with the capacity to experience emotional feelings and remember events. Although she has these memories, though, she doesn't hold any feelings towards them, at least not inherently. When she's imbued with a soul, however, that changes. Then, Baby can look upon things more emotionally, and certain memories could even be considered traumatic for her, and this is what happened when Elizabeth was killed by her. When Baby killed Elizabeth, the little girl's spirit fused with the animatronic, becoming one being. Baby retains the experiences of both her robot self and the spirit haunting her, but now with a real person coexisting within her, she's fully sentient and painfully aware of her memories and surroundings. When Michael arrives at Circus Baby's entertainment, the Funtimes begin to hatch a plan to escape. Sealed away at all times in a dark underground facility, tortured with electric shocks and forced to dance, the animatronics want out. Their plan involves usage of the Scooper, a device used in the facility to extract kidnapped children's bodies from the animatronics, to hollow out an adult's body and use it as a skin suit to escape the facility. In order to do this, they plan to get their own animatronic innards ripped out so they can leave their shells and join together as one hybrid being, what we know as Ennard. On the first few nights, Baby is a helpful force to Michael, telling him how to safely avoid Ballora. She does this to earn his trust so she can eventually lure him to the scooping room. However, on night 4, Baby begins to recognize Michael. Not as her brother, however, but as her father. The spirit of Elizabeth, full of bitterness and anger over the unrequited parental love she suffered, is enraged by William's presence, combined with the anger of Baby for tormenting her and stealing her from her father. She then kidnaps the man she believes is her father and hides him in the Funtime Chica springlock suit. Though this did jeopardize the plan, since Baby did know how dangerous the spring suits were, Elizabeth wanted to get back at her father for indirectly trapping her in a suit. The next night, Baby abandons her body and joins with Ennard, the plan nearing its final phase. Baby speaks to Michael through Ennard from behind her body, begging him to send her to the scooping room. He sends her to supposedly be scooped, and she then guides him back through Funtime Auditorium to get to the scooping room. When he arrives, Ennard uses the scooper to withdraw Michael's guts from his body, hollowing his body out to be used as a skin suit. The Funtimes successfully escape the facility and use the illusion discs to make Michael appear as a normal human to his neighbors. However, the body soon begins to decompose and the illusion fades, his skin becoming purple and the Ballora eyes used in place of his own fading. Eventually, Michael's skin becomes too weak to support Ennard and the robotic mask bails, hiding in the sewer. Michael collapses to the ground, nothing maintaining his body anymore, but hears Baby's voice telling him,
"You won't die."
His spirit possesses his own skin, and with control back over his own body, Michael sets off on a quest to redeem himself for what he did to his brother and begin his journey to clean up his father's mess. Luckily for Michael, it's not too long until the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza reopens for business, the company thinking they fixed the animatronics. For the first week of the restaurant's reopening, the night guard hired is one Jeremy Fitzgerald, who somehow ended up listening to Phone Guy's messages from 2 years ago, learning how to fend against the animatronics. Despite the dangerous conditions, Jeremy takes the opportunity for overtime and takes a daytime shift the next day. During this shift, however, a major incident occurs, the bite of 87. One of the animatronics, likely mangled with their dangerous detached jaw, attacks Jeremy, chomping down on him and causing him severe head trauma. Jeremy has to get his frontal lobe surgically removed as a result. This is a major scandal for Freddy Fazbear's, especially since this happened in very clear view of the guests, and the restaurant immediately makes plans to shut down again. With Jeremy hospitalized, the restaurant scrambles to find a replacement security guard, and fortunately for them, a new contender is willing to apply, Fritz Smith, aka Michael Afton. Michael tampers with the animatronics, likely trying to learn more about the spirits and how to free them. However, he's fired after only one night of work at the pizzeria, his reasons for termination being tampering with the animatronics and odor, likely due to his rotting corpse smell. After Michael's termination, Phone Guy likely took up the night shift until the place eventually shut down. After the disastrous toy locations, Fazbear Entertainment decides for their next endeavor that the toy animatronics will be abandoned entirely, and the withered classic animatronics will be refurbished instead. Due to budget restrictions, the animatronics were moved to the old Fredbear and Friends location, housing the dangerous Springlock animatronics, including the Spring Fredbear, haunted by Evan. The company decides to hold off on opening the location right away in order to let the media firestorm die down. With the classic animatronics left momentarily unattended, William takes the opportunity to attempt to steal the animatronics for his own research purposes. He arrives at the abandoned restaurant and waits in the safe room to sneak attack the animatronics, knowing they're haunted by angry ghosts. Evan, represented by a purple specter of Freddy, is enraged at the sight of his father, who manipulated him and was never there for him as he was bullied and tormented by Michael. It's also possible he recognized William as Michael. Night after night, he leads the spirits to William in an attempt to attack him, but since he's hiding in the safe room, they can't get to him, and William then jumps out and disassembles them. This pattern repeats for 5 nights until all of the animatronics are destroyed, unintentionally giving the children's spirits free reign. On the 5th night, the children corner William in the safe room, Cassidy taunting him and chasing him around. William notices the spring Bonnie suit in the corner and rushes to hide in it. Thinking he's outsmarted the spirits, he laughs at them, but forgetting the spring suit's susceptibility to moisture, the springlocks come loose and crush William alive, suffering immense pain as the spirits fade away. But something isn't right. The children aren't passing on, and this is because the puppet is keeping them held in this plane. Remember how Charlie died? Alone, abandoned by her peers outside of Fredbear's family diner. She likely brought the original animatronics to life because she was lonely. She wanted friends again. She never wants to fear being alone again. When Fazbear Entertainment comes back to the abandoned restaurant to open up shop again, they find the scattered remains of the animatronics and the lifeless Springtrap suit with the human body inside. As the deadline for opening day grows closer, they rush to assemble the animatronics, causing the spirits to become attached to them once again, and deliver a swift announcement that the safe room was being barricaded off, sealing Springtrap inside.
Hello? This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old store face. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives. Thanks again, and remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Sometime after this, the position of night shift security guard becomes once again available, and Michael takes the job, hoping to find out how he can free the spirits and possibly trying to find William. When he begins work, he calls out to his father, telling him he freed Elizabeth as he was told to do.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
Despite years of William refusing to claim Michael as his own child, his own sister confused the two men. He must be so hurt.
And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now.
It's likely that putting Elizabeth back together entailed taking this chip from her on Night 5, possibly containing the code that gave Baby the capacity for sentience. However, it was likely too late once Michael had already done this, since Elizabeth's spirit had merged with Baby.
But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows.
This line has one of two interpretations. He could just literally mean that he should have died when he was scooped because, well, he should have. Or perhaps Michael feels like he deserved to die for what he did to his brother so many years ago.
There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
Michael swears to avenge his father's victims and acquire justice for them, hoping to track down his father and make him pay for his crimes for good. Working at the old Fredbear & Friends location with the original characters incurs some very unfortunate memories for Michael. Memories of his father ignoring him and his siblings, the shame of the ruthless bullying he gave his brother, the trauma of witnessing Evan be brutally killed right before his eyes. These tragic memories cause Michael to be plagued by night terrors after every shift, monstrous and terrifying versions of the animatronics haunting his dreams, in a home bearing a similarity to his own, but paralleling the structure of his job in the real world. He documents this all in his company-mandated logbook, lamenting how he feels like the only one who acknowledges how alarming this whole situation is. But there's something else hidden in this logbook. Michael is using the logbook to communicate with the spirit of his brother, Evan, the second Golden Freddy. And no, Evan and Cassidy are not haunting the same suit. Evan possesses the Spring Fredbear suit from FNaF 4's minigames. However, we only ever see the three-fingered Fredbear suit in-game, likely just a costume from Fredbear's Family Diner that would be put on endoskeletons when not worn by performers. Cassidy possesses this suit. She's the aggressive one who attacks, as opposed to the quiet Shadow Freddy, who passively sits in the back room, alone and afraid. Look familiar? It's also worth mentioning that Shadow Freddy in FNaF World has a deliberately misaligned jaw. Michael seems to be using the logbook to try and contact Evan, and he's responding to the checklist answers at the end of the night. Evan manipulates the text of the book itself, and Mike writes in his own blood with these faded messages. These "my name" messages littered throughout are his own notes he's leaving to mark which pages are hints to Cassidy's puzzle, who seems to be also attempting to contact Michael through this book. This faded text can't be Cassidy because there's no reason to believe she knows anything about Michael or Evan's lives before this, so the plastic telephone question doesn't make any sense. Additionally, it seems like Evan and Cassidy are speaking to each other, as shown by this interaction in the word search. Who are you? It's me. What is your name? Cassidy. Ultimately, the logbook is still a very confusing element of lore to me, and I'm still not exactly sure what to make of it. Perhaps Evan and Cassidy both have limited control of what they can alter, which is why Cassidy has to use the page numbers to spell out her name in the word search instead of just saying her name. But she's also able to have the conversation we just talked about, so the extent of her influence remains unclear to me. But anyway, I digress. Michael survives every night while communing with the ghosts. On his fourth night, he gets to hear the unfortunate fate of Phone Guy.
Oh, hello! Hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you. When I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
The next night, Michael hears another phone call, but this time with the distorted garbling and screech of Golden Freddy on the other end of the phone. When Mike goes home to sleep that night, Nightmare Fredbear appears in his dreams, as he remembers the horrible incident that unfolded all those years ago. After suffering one more night in the pizzeria and another nightmare of the animatronics pursuing him in his own home, Michael decides to finally put an end to the children's suffering. He returns for the final custom night, wherein his spirit travels into the animatronic mechanisms and he presents himself to each child as their favorite character. In Mangle's quest, we see a massive figure of a crying puppet. Charlie is begging Michael to stop. She knows what he's doing, and she doesn't like it. She's afraid of being alone again. Finally, Michael's spirit, represented by a purple spring Vonnie harkening back to his resemblance with his father, manages to make contact with his brother, Evan. Mike approaches his brother in Fredbear, offering him a giant cake to make up for the birthday party he ruined 10 years earlier. Charlie, moved by this symbol of affection and realizing that Michael is someone to be trusted, concedes that her friends must be freed. She unites all of the spirits, Gabriel, Fritz, Susie, Jeremy, and Evan, at a birthday party like the one Evan should have had, and offers them a cake. Evan dons his mask, and the spirits of the 5 children are finally given their happiest day. Charlie's spirit lingers, but it likely goes dormant based on the fact her mask falls more slowly. Michael is fired for tampering with the animatronics, but he's fine with that. The spirits are set free, all is seemingly at peace. By the end of the year, Freddy's is finally shut down for good after years of struggle. Well, all except for one. Cassidy, the first Golden Freddy. She tried to contact Michael so she could be saved along with her friends, but evidently he didn't solve her messages and never found her. So she remained, locked in the crumbling Freddy Fazbear's with her own killer. In my opinion, this explanation makes Cassidy's role as the vengeful spirit make a lot more sense. For a long time I wondered why Cassidy specifically held such a strong and long-standing grudge against William. I mean, obviously he killed her, but we don't see the same level of spite and hatred among the other kids. You'd think that if there was an especially vengeful spirit, it would be someone like Charlie, his very first victim, or Elizabeth, his daughter who he barely cared for. But no, it's this seemingly random girl. But I think my theory gives Cassidy a much more clear-cut reason for her anger. Left alone in the back room, always forgotten and ignored, and when freedom came for all of her friends, she was once again forgotten, despite her attempts to reach out to Michael. Left by herself, her friends all abandoning her with her own killer, she must feel so terrible. I'm sure that would drive anyone to devote themselves to revenge. Sometime between 1993 and 2023 entered Oust's baby from itself as a result of her becoming too controlling, making Funtime Freddy the leader. At this point, Baby's malicious code has fully merged with Elizabeth's spirit, giving her an insatiable desire to kill children and make her father proud. It's likely that at this point Elizabeth does genuinely believe she is Baby and thinks that she, as in the robot, is William's daughter. Baby returns to the abandoned Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental and salvages a body for herself. She uses the lights from the former stage in her chest and the claw that was used to kill Elizabeth as an arm. The rest of Ennard comes shortly after her, at the same time as a technician likely coming to retrieve the Funtime Chica animatronic that was still down here. The technician performs maintenance on the vents while descending further into the facility, Ennard chasing them the whole time. When they reach the boiler room, they readjust the heat flow and unintentionally cause Ennard to be melted together and become the being known as Molten Freddy, donning the shattered mask of Funtime Freddy. Precisely 30 years after the closure of the final Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a new location based on the horrors that occurred there so many years ago opens, known as Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. Seeking to make the experience as vintage and authentic as possible, the owners of the attraction search for any old artifacts of Freddy's that may still be around. They visit the last location and collect any and all relics, including children's drawings, posters, toys, the shells of the still-possessed toy animatronics, the original Fives costumes, and the puppet. After decades of putting miles between himself and any association with Freddy's, Henry Emily comes across the ad for the horror attraction. While he finds the tragedies that occurred at his locations being treated as novelties and offensive idea, he has a morbid curiosity about Fazbear's Fright's portrayal of the events. He applies for the job, not caring to inform management that he's the original inventor of the animatronics, lest they begin using it as a selling point for their, in his opinion, trashy and distasteful business. In one of his first shifts at the attraction, Henry gets a call from Phone Dude, one of the managers. In it, he warns him of some of the safety hazards facing the location.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time. We found some great new relics over the weekend, and we're out tracking down a new lead right now. So, let me just update you real quick, then you can get to work. Like, the attraction opens in like a week, so we have to make sure everything works and nothing catches on fire.
This puts the idea of fire in Henry's head, which later becomes relevant. Furthermore, he mentions that an architect who designed the original building knows the safe room and that the owners plan to tear it down to find more things to decorate the attraction with.
Right now the place is basically just, flashing lights and spooky props. I honestly thought we'd have more by now. If we don't have something really cool by next week, then we may have to suit you up in a furry suit and make you walk around saying, boo. But, like I said, we're trying to track down a good lead right now. Some guy who helped design one of the buildings says it was like an extra room that got boarded up, or something like that. So, we're gonna take a peek and see what we can find.
Henry's shift goes by without a hitch. The same can't be said for the next night, however. The owners unseal the safe room, and inside find none other than Springtrap. Over the moon at the opportunity to have a real vintage animatronic in their attraction, they very swiftly move him into the building, awakening the rotting corpse of William Afton in the process. The presence of William causes the dormant spirits of Charlie, Cassidy, and the toys to awaken and become very aggressive, creating chaos in the location. Lacking physical forms, the toy animatronics appear as burnt phantoms and terrorize Henry. Charlie, seeing the father who left her outside to die in the rain, taunts Henry by forcing him to look at her, forcing him to pay attention to her when he didn't all those years ago. Cassidy, meanwhile, doesn't attack Henry. Since he seems to be opposing William, the one she really hates so much, she simply appears sometimes, neither helping nor harming him. All the while, Springtrap, his old friend, chases him through the attraction. After 6 torturous nights of being terrorized by the animatronics and spirits, Henry realizes how he can hopefully end this madness. Fire. During his final night working at the attraction, Henry sets the place alight, and flees before the fire department arrives. The few things that made it out of the inferno are auctioned off. But Henry's plan didn't quite work as intended. While he did manage to successfully free the children possessing all the toys, Charlie, Cassidy, and William all managed to escape, Cassidy's spirit attaching herself to William. After seeing for himself how much suffering remains, Henry realizes he needs to take matters into his own hands and end this once and for all on his own terms. He documents this in his log, HRY-223.
It's only now that I understand the depth of the depravity of this creature, this monster that I unwillingly helped to create. As if what he had already done wasn't enough. He found a new way to desecrate, to humiliate, to destroy. As if the suffering wasn't enough, the loss of innocence, the loss of everything to so many people. Small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose, and used in ways I never thought imaginable. He lured them all back to a familiar place, back with familiar tricks. He brought them all together. Are they still aware? I hope not. It keeps me awake at night. I could make myself sleep, but not yet. Not until I undo what he has done and heal this wound. A wound first inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this. He set some kind of trap. I don't know what it was, but he led them there again. He overpowered them again, and he robbed them of the only thing that they had again. I don't know how those tiny breaths of life came to inhabit those machines, but they will never find rest now, not like this. I have to call them all back, all of them, together in one place.
Henry's plan begins with the creation of Lure Encapsulate Fuse Transport Extract, aka Lefty, a literal bear trap created to pacify the puppet. After seeing her wrathful and violent nature at Fazbear's fright, he realized that she was too unstable to be left unattended and needed to be quelled. Lefty serves the purpose of keeping her at bay. He is equipped with the same frequency emitted by the green security bracelet, the one the puppet is programmed to keep safe, the one Charlie wore when she died. The puppet's programming would draw it towards Lefty this way. Once he caught her, he played the Dream Wand melody, luckily the music box's lullaby from FNaF 2, to keep her somewhat calm, or at least not berserk. As we can see in this secret loading screen, Lefty succeeded at capturing the puppet, since her arms can't be seen between Lefty's limbs. The next phase of Henry's plan has him establish his own pizzeria once again, known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. While this location functions as a normal pizzeria on the surface, an intricate labyrinth of vents is hidden behind the main dining area, revealing its true purpose, to lure in the remaining killer animatronics, seeking children to attack. This leads to Henry's next step, the creation of Remote Activated Simulated Child, or RASC. This device is a robotic replica of a human child designed to trick the animatronics into chasing around kids that aren't there to begin with. It's very likely that this creation is Charlie's first or second body, repurposed by Henry, since we learned the Twisted Ones that Henry never lets anything go to waste. The penultimate phase of Henry's plan is to include Paragraph 4 in the guidelines for the manager of the restaurant. Paragraph 4 seems to include descriptions of the animatronics that the manager should be looking to salvage, based on this note from Molten Freddy's blueprint. The robot Henry seeks are Ennard, now Molten Freddy, Springtrap, aka Afton, Baby, aka Elizabeth, and Lefty, aka the puppet, aka Charlie. And with these parameters outlined, the trap is laid and the operation can be set in motion. Henry posts an advertisement for the position of manager at Freddy's. Michael Afton, living in shadows in his undying form for nearly 40 years now, sees this job posting and is surprised by it. Likely trying to seek out his father, as he promised to do at the end of Sister Location, he takes the opportunity. Henry instructs Michael on how to establish a quality pizzeria. In other words, one that will attract the largest number of robots, and places him in an office near the back of the restaurant in the middle of the vent maze, where he completes tasks as the customers eat in the other room. After every shift, Michael follows the instructions outlined in paragraph 4 and checks the back alley, and each night discovers a robot to be salvaged. He successfully salvages all 4 animatronics, Molten Freddy, Scrap Trap, Scrap Baby, and Lefty, and uses the RASC to lure them around the vents. Michael reaches the end of his work week, with all the animatronics gathered together in one place. Baby speaks to Michael, claiming that they had tricked him and that they were here to receive a gift. However, she's cut off by Henry, who can now commence the final phase of the operation. Henry learned from the blueprints of the Scooper, or the Scup, that the remaining animatronics had been imbued with a chemical known as Remnant. This chemical causes spirits to become attached to objects, and acts almost like a glue. However, there is one thing that can negate the effect of Remnant, that being high temperatures. As such, Henry sets Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place ablaze, allowing the spirits to be freed from the robots. He reveals to Elizabeth that this location that she believed was a gift was, in fact, a trap, filled with familiar senses to keep them running in circles in a maze with no prize. He tells Michael that he had an escape plan for him, but realizes that he, too, wants to burn among his sister and his father, his own spirit attached to his body through the Scooper's Remnant injection. Henry turns his attention to Charlie, apologizing for not being there to protect her the day she was killed, and admiring her for protecting those who, like her, couldn't save themselves. With this, he ends his transmission, allowing himself, Elizabeth, William, Charlie, Michael, and Ennard to burn in the cleansing flames, putting an end to this for good.
This ends, for all of us, in communication.
However, this plan isn't entirely effective. William actually was not freed, rather he was held to the mortal plane by Cassidy, the vengeful spirit. Cassidy is not content with William being able to pass on to hell. She wants to see to it herself that he suffers as deeply as possible for his crimes. She creates a personal hell for William, imprisoning him in his own mind. Here, he is forced into a realm where he has to constantly face the consequences of his actions, spending eternity fighting back against his victims, creations, and consequences of his creations. After the destruction of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a new organization has acquired Fazbear Entertainment and plans to open a new location. In order to be rid of the negative reputation haunting the restaurant's history, Fazbear Entertainment commissions an indie game developer to make a series of games based on the events that occurred there before stating that the events were in fact slanderous fabrications made by the supposedly rogue developer. After this, Fazbear Entertainment begins work on the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience, a VR game based on these claims to poke fun at them and leave the ghosts of the past in the past. The company hired for this project is called Silver Parasol Games, and to give them material to work with, Fazbear Entertainment sends them data from the old Freddy Fazbear's locations, notably the animatronic circuit boards. These circuits are scanned into the game in order to expedite development, and while it does, Silver Parasol also unintentionally releases a very dangerous entity into the game. A manifestation of William's evil and hatred appears in the game as a glitchy Spring Bonnie suit, one that was perhaps even the first suit used at Fredbear's Family Diner. This Spring Bonnie quickly grows to become a virus in the game, seeking to spread itself. A beta tester, Jeremy, encounters the virus while playing. He then starts to exhibit strange, paranoid behaviors. First, he tells his boss about nightmares he's having, but describes them in a way that makes them seem real. He's not startled by anything in the game and will just stand there like he's talking to someone. The manager's response to this is to begin preparations to fire him. A couple days later, a coworker, Gabriella, finds Jeremy early in the morning, obscured by darkness in the supply room. She finds ink splatters, what looks like a Halloween mask, and a paper guillotine, and though she can't see Jeremy's face, with an emphasis placed on it being covered by the VR headset, we can assume that the glitch trap virus drove him insane, leading him to slice his own face off. Following this incident, Silver Parasol begins preparing to sell the game to another developer and hides evidence of what happened with Jeremy. He's fired after the incident before, and Gabriella takes his place as the tester. She begins to encounter the virus as well, and starts recording tapes documenting her discoveries. However, the malicious code then attaches itself to her logs, and when she tries to delete them, something goes horribly wrong. Her consciousness becomes trapped in the game, and from inside she records a new log. This is why she reintroduces herself at the beginning of tape 15. Gabriella tells the next beta tester that to get rid of Glitchtrap, they must assemble the tapes and press a series of buttons on the console, performing a hard reset on the game and erasing him from the files. Meanwhile, the game has been pushed off onto a new developer, and a new beta tester named Vanessa has begun playing it. She encounters Gabriella's audio logs and assembles them in a secret room she created to play the tapes. Glitchtrap manifests to Vanessa and she follows Gabriella's instructions to be rid of him. However, the plan doesn't work as intended, and Glitchtrap swaps bodies with Vanessa, effectively brainwashing her and imprisoning her in her own mind. Now under the influence of Glitchtrap, Vanessa begins plans to carry on Afton's bloody legacy. She takes up the moniker of Vanny, a portmanteau of Vanessa and Bunny, and creates a papier-mâché mask for her new killer persona. She communes with Glitchtrap.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No. There's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. Don't worry. I'll be ready. And I won't let you down. It will be fun.
Despite her claims, though, people do seem to be growing suspicious of Vanny. In an email from her coworker Luis, we learn that Vanessa has been looking up some unusual things that have been triggering a system alert, including the search terms torture and how to induce compliance in human subjects, and ordering a Viking Blood Eagle calendar. In Norse mythology, the Blood Eagle was a very violent execution method used at the Age of Vikings. Later, Luis messaged her to tell her that he dropped by to greet her earlier, but she was apparently glued to her computer screen and didn't even notice him. Meanwhile, Fazbear Entertainment has begun construction on their latest and biggest location yet, Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. The Pizzaplex is a massive mall decorated in an 80s glam rock style and plastered head to toe in Fazbear theming. The new characters featured here include Glam Rock Freddy, Glam Rock Bonnie, Glam Rock Chica, Montgomery Gator, and Roxanne Wolf. There's also the daycare attendant, Sun, who turns into Moon when the lights go out. With their notorious proclivity for cheapness, Fazbear begins to build the Pizzaplex over the incinerated Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, not wanting to waste the property they now owned. And in the ruins of the pizzeria are the burned remains of the scraps: Molten Freddy, Baby, Lefty, and Restless William, his spirit imprisoned in his own mind as a result of Cassidy's punishment. However, Cassidy's unending desire to exact her revenge proves to backfire. In the wreckage below the Pizzaplex, Vanny uncovers the battered remains of Springtrap and places him in a recharge station, creating a plan to accumulate parts to reassemble his body. Meanwhile, though, suspicion is beginning to fall upon Vanny. As a result of the strange behaviors, such as the alarming search history from before, Fazbear mandates therapy sessions for Vanessa. This could mean big trouble for Vanny. In order to create a diversion, she begins to create a plan to throw Fazbear off her trail. A plan that will allow her to live in the Pizzaplex free of obstruction and capture children, while also going in and out and living her life as normal. Now, how might Vanny be able to have these two versions of herself coexist? Well, consider this molten blob that appears in the scorched ruins of the pizzeria simulation at the end of Security Breach, somewhere we know Vanny has been. Out of the characters attached to it, who has a proclivity for disguising themselves as a human in multiple continuities, and is characterized by their ability to pretend? Yes, using Baby's remains, Vanny creates an imposter version of herself that can live Vanessa's life, aka the Vanessa we see in-game. While Elizabeth's spirit did pass on at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, recall that she effectively merged with Baby's AI. So while the spirit is gone, Baby remains, with Elizabeth's thoughts, feelings, and memories, and the desire to make Daddy proud. Baby is reconstructed by Vanny and equipped with an illusion disc to make her appear as Vanessa, and she begins attending her mandated therapy sessions for her. From here, Imposter Vanessa, who I'll just refer to as Vanessa from this point on for brevity's sake, essentially replaces Vanny as her normal self. With another Vanessa entirely in play, she can go in and out for her shifts as normal, making nobody think anything is strange while the real Vanny can live in the Pizzaplex and begin executing her plan. Hey, I just wanted to jump in here real quick and give a major shout out to ID's Fantasy, a fellow FNaF creator whose security breach theories I came across and was absolutely knocked off my feet by. Her theories are in my opinions genius and make for a super compelling story. They're my main inspiration for my interpretation of most of Security Breach's lore, and I wholeheartedly believe them at this point. I highly implore all of you to check out her videos, which I'll link down below. Anyway, back to the theory. Furthermore, Vanessa is forced to assist Vanny and Afton in their goals. In her therapy sessions, we hear Vanessa talk about how she has to be a good girl and follow orders, and then we learn that she's apparently communicating with someone who's talking to her in a manipulative tone. In addition, she says this:
I can't talk about this. He said he would always be watching. He could be here, or there, or anywhere in between.
Are you talking about your dad? Have those feelings come up again? I hate sounding like a broken record, but this is something you really need to resolve if you're ever going to be happy.
I have. I compartmentalized him. He's locked away.
After Elizabeth ignored her father's warnings and got herself killed, it's no wonder that she would want to obey everything William says. Now let's talk about what exactly Vanny's plan is. In order to give rise to William once again, Vanny is kidnapping children in the pizzeria, but not killing them. Instead, she's somehow replacing them, either infecting them with the glitch trap virus or creating a replica of them, robot or otherwise, and sending them back out into the world to claim more victims. It could also be possible that Vanny is trying to recreate William's children in the same way that she recreated Elizabeth. While this may seem like a leap in logic, look at how major of a theme replacing people has been in media surrounding the games. It was pretty much the entire plot of The Fourth Closet, and then we see it again in Fazbear Fred's stories like To Be Beautiful, Lonely Freddy, and He Told Me Everything. To me, Scott is clearly trying to push us towards the idea that children are being abducted and replaced. When Vanny captures a child, she takes them to a storage room beneath the main area. Here, she supplants her victims with the glitch trap virus and gives them some form of subliminal messaging to make them think they are in Afton. This is evidenced by the table we see above the room, whereupon staff bots decorated to look like the family are placed. A boy with a missing head, a boy with red hair and a baseball cap, a girl resembling Baby, and a woman resembling Ballora. These post-it notes aren't the writings of just one person, these are the collective scrawlings of at least 8 brainwashed children, all of which are attempts to influence them into believing they are Evan Afton. We don't know what exactly becomes of these victims. Either they were successfully brainwashed and sent back into the world by Vanny as another puppet to do her bidding like Vanessa, or they were deemed failures and killed off. But we do know that at least one survived, that being patient 46. In her therapy sessions, Vanessa begins to reveal a little too much about her relationship with Vanny. As such, it's likely that she sent one of her brainwashed kids into therapy after her to keep an eye on her, and when the therapists get a little too close to the truth, 46 bumps them off. How do we know 46 is one of the brainwashed kids? Well, they can't be Gregory, since the romantic localizations of Security Breach use feminine pronouns for them, and it's very likely that they're a child, since it's remarked upon that they don't fit in the chair and they have to have simple concepts explained to them, like objective versus subjective. In addition, we know that 46 is working with Vanny, since she's seen the Pizzaplex talking to someone with rabbit ears, and that she spends a lot of time there. While the child evidence from before indicated it, this proves 46 can't be Vanny, so it has to be someone else entirely. The therapist tells us that 46 is responsible for the animatronics becoming aggressive. While we can't be too sure of her computer savvy, it is always possible that Vanny is telling her how to hack the robots on her behalf. After all, a child would look a lot less out of place in the Pizzaplex, so suspicion wouldn't fall upon them as easily, and a child could get to smaller places that a grown woman might not be able to. Near the end of her sessions, we also learned that 46 lied to her therapists about her trauma. The thing is, though, that 46 probably wasn't intentionally lying about her past. She genuinely believes that these things are true, since she's been brainwashed to either believe she is William or one of his children. 46 then stops attending her therapy sessions, at least for the time being. Sometime after this, Vanny kidnaps another victim, this time one we know as Gregory. She performs her brainwashing procedure on him as usual. However, something goes wrong in the process. Gregory's memory is wiped, but the glitch trap virus doesn't permeate his system. We don't know why exactly he isn't brainwashed, but perhaps it's because he's a stronger-willed individual. Vanessa had to give up some level of control for the virus to take control of her, and it's possible that she uses children as her victims because they're generally weaker-minded and thus easier to control. However, we know Gregory's a pretty motivated person. He's smart enough to hide in Freddy, and when he sees the upgrades and parts in service and says that they have to get them, he very much acquires them. He escapes when Vanessa captures him and tries everything he can to get out of the pizzeria. Gregory is clearly much stronger-willed than the average child. Anyway, Gregory manages to escape Vanny and he begins hiding out in the Pizzaplex behind the daycare. While these next couple events may have been before the aforementioned, there's no saying for sure, so I'll place them here since the relative placement itself isn't too relevant. Firstly, at some point in time before Security Breach's events, Glamrock Bonnie was destroyed. Vanny lured him to Monty Gator's attraction, Gator Golf, leading Monty to destroy him. Monty's main desire is to rise the ranks in the band, and his destructive nature. Seeing an opportunity to steal his spotlight, Monty destroyed Bonnie, taking his place in the band. Vanny then used the parts from Bonnie's wrecked body to reconstruct William's body, grafting onto him the sharp-fingered endoskeleton hand used by characters that play the bass. Secondly, Cassidy took up occupation in the Pizzaplex inside the Princess Quest arcade games. There, she began working to exterminate the glitch trap virus, which had likely began to spread to the other technology in the pizzeria. Sometime after Gregory escapes Vanny's chamber, he manages to find his way into Glamrock Freddy's stomach seeking protection right before showtime. During the performance, Freddy detects Gregory in him and malfunctions, causing him to be sent back to his room for repair. There, Gregory reveals himself to Freddy with a notably confident tone, but when he's asked his name, he very deliberately hesitates. Perhaps this is because his real name isn't Gregory, and he forgot his real name when Vanny attempted to brainwash him. After this, Gregory is scanned by Glamrock Freddy, who can't find his guest profile, likely because there was never really a Gregory in attendance. They then see Vanessa, who Gregory claims is trying to get him. Vanessa was probably on his trail before the game began, and may have chased him all the way to Freddy's room, which is how he ended up inside of Freddy to begin with. After all, he's a breach in the security of Vanny's goals, and if the interfering Gregory isn't removed from the picture, who knows what he could do or say that would jeopardize her plans. And if that happens, there's no way that Vanessa's father would be happy with her. Freddy escorts Gregory to the main exit, but just as he arrives, the Pizzaplex doors shut, barring him from leaving. From there, the animatronic teams up with the boy to keep him safe and help him survive the night. After an attempt to escape through the fire exit, Vanessa manages to catch him and throw him in the security office, leaving him to be killed by Vanny. Fortunately, Gregory escapes and reunites with the damaged Freddy, who he takes to parts and service for repair. Gregory then sets off on a mission to destroy the remaining animatronics and use their parts to upgrade Freddy. He crushes Chica in the trash compactor and takes her voice box, sends Monty flying from the catwalks above Gator Golf and takes his claws, and hits Roxy with a go-kart, taking her x-ray eyes. With all of these upgrades, Gregory is able to find a hidden service elevator in Roxy Raceway, and travels to it with Freddy, descending below ground into the burnt ruins of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. There, they encounter the battered, burned body of Springtrap, in the process of reconstruction by Vanny. Springtrap begins attempting to hack Freddy and turn him against Gregory, while the shattered animatronics close in on them. Meanwhile, the molten mass of FNaF 6's animatronics, likely containing the aggressive AI of the Fun Times that suffered the same fate as Baby, begins to attack, its child-killing programming roused by Gregory's presence. Gregory has to fend off Springtrap's hacking by incinerating the rooms he's in, probably with the same mechanism Henry used to burn the original location to the ground. After letting it up enough, the pizzeria begins to crumble and collapse. Springtrap attempts to follow Gregory out of the location, but Molten Freddy quickly grabs him and throws him into the inferno. Gregory and Glamrock Freddy presumably escape through the wreckage and back onto the surface. And that is where our story leaves us. We can't be quite sure where FNaF will take us next, but I'm certain this is only the beginning of a new arc. Actually, short little update to my script here, Steel will actually release the teaser for the Ruin DLC on Twitter recently, which is going to come out in 2023. While that teaser has a lot to unpack, I might make a little short video on it analyzing it, so stay tuned for that, but anyway, let's get back to script. We can't be too sure whether Vanessa and Vanny survived the fire, but I'm certainly willing to believe it, especially since they had plenty of time to get out before it even spread to the surface. That is, if it even did spread to the surface. In addition to the aforementioned Ruin DLC coming soon, there's also the Tales of the Pizzaplex anthology, which will probably be out by the time I release this. Hopefully these things will illuminate the story a little more. As for our next games cast, that also remains a mystery. While it's probable that Gregory and Freddy will somehow be involved, there are no guarantees in the world of FNaF, so we'll just have to wait and see. Vanny is still seemingly at large, although she may no longer have Vanessa under her control with her plan to revive William's physical body thwarted. There's also the ever-elusive Patient 46 on the table, who may play a more direct role in the action in the next entry. Another little mini-theory I just wanted to throw in here at the end are the striking similarities Security Breach has to the novel trilogy. Recall that in the Silver Eyes, a mall was built on top of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and recall that in the climax of the Twisted Ones, an underground pizzeria catches fire and collapses with Springtrap inside. The next logical step would be the fourth closet, and if Baby is Vanessa in some capacity, which I find highly likely, then that makes this connection even more deliberate seeming. Perhaps we can predict what the next game will feature if this connection was intended. But for now, that's where we leave off. Thank you all so much for watching. This video has been pretty much years in the making, and I'm so glad to finally be able to present a timeline that I think answers most major questions and is narratively satisfying. I had a lot of fun editing this together and assembling this timeline for you all, and I really hope to do more short-form theory-style content because it is a nice breather after that monster of a video about the fourth closet. Whenever we get more content about where FNaF will take us next, I'll be sure to be on top of it as soon as possible. With all that said, again, thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed it, then please consider leaving a like or comment, or maybe even subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!